than 1,000 workers from 6 different unions supported the motion demanding for Mr Pickard's resignation. The rank and file members said that if Mr Pickard does not step down immediately, Premier Nick Greiner should sack him. The unions are taking the strong action, fearing that their jobs at the area's 5 power stations and the Waratah Transmission Centre will be lost and that they can no longer trust promises from Mr Pickard or the Premier. Throughout today's 3.5-hour meeting, workers heard from employees at the Tullawarra Power Station and Huntly Colliery, who were earlier given assurances from both the Premier and Mr Pickard that their jobs were safe, only to be told last week that both plants would close within a month. The unions also believe that the government intends to sell off the power stations to private enterprise and the transmission centres to local government, forcing the price of electricity up by a staggering 64%. Energy Division Union organiser Chris Price says they received majority support for a strategy plan to apply pressure on the government.
I endorsed a few other matters like financial support for our members at Tullawarra, a request for an inquiry into the Electricity Commission, a full inquiry on the management of the Electricity Commission.
The next step of the campaign is for a demonstration on the Lake Macquarie Council chambers next month during the State Government Cabinet meeting, followed by a combined public sector workers rally on Parliament House in Sydney. Darren Curtis for NBN News.
Thereby contributing greatly to the employment.
Australia's marching koalas! Burn! Attend! Hut! Horn!
Bringing a marching band to America is like taking coals to Newcastle, except these koalas, coincidentally from Newcastle, are showing their Yankee counterparts a thing or two. The 157-member troop, predominantly girls from 23 high schools in the Hunter Valley, is on its 4th overseas tour, and the reaction?
For high school, I thought they were very professional.
They were absolutely wonderful.
And what do the marching koalas have to say?
Americans, they love us, they really do. Australia's flavour of the month over here.
Among the things they don't like about America...
When we were coming down in the plane, there was a heap of pollution.
And Californian boys.
Not as good as the Australian guys, but they're not bad.
Maybe the Canadian boys will be cuter. Next stop for the marching koalas, Calgary.
Police say most of the items recovered in the raids have been identified by owners, but several exhibits are still waiting to be claimed. According to police, most of the goods were stolen from houses and garage in the Windale area over a period of several months. Police executed search warrants on 10 houses in the suburb, arresting and charging a total of 13 people, including 8 juveniles, one just 11 years old. Police warned that more suspects are still to be questioned.
We would have recovered approximately about $10,000 worth.
Would that be all the goods?
No, that is not all the goods from the break-in. We're still looking for some more.
Do you expect to make further arrests?
Yes, we do actually. I'd envisage that in the next couple of days we'll be making further arrests.
The arrests began when police charged a 22-year-old man last week with receiving stolen goods. It's alleged by police that much of the property was traded not for money but for quantities of cannabis. 5 adults have been bailed to appear in Belmont Local Court on the 27th of next month. The juveniles will appear at Warramai on the same date.
Weeks ago, these students hadn't had a job for at least 6 months. Via the Get Skilled program, they've had a helping hand in getting out of the dole queue and into a career. Education Minister Dr. Merewether introduced the program to technical and further education colleges, who are now providing short courses for unemployed youth aged between 15 and 24 years. Prior to this, these students had never been in a professional kitchen before. Today, 8 weeks into the Cook's Assisting course, the students met potential employers who sampled their fare: oyster and prawn platter, pumpkin winter soup, crown roast and other delicious food. For the next 2 weeks, the students will have work experience with the Belmont 16-foot Sailing Club, Cardiff Workers Club, the Rankin Park, among other hospitals. Glendale College is very optimistic about the students' employment future. Next semester, they will run the course again.
A full-scale search began alongside and in the river after a witness reported seeing a car go down a boat ramp at Wharf Reserve and disappear underwater shortly after 11 a.m. 15-year-old Peter Foster was on holiday from Sydney. His fishing trip turned into a horrifying experience.
Well, there was this guy in a car and he just kept on driving straight off the end of the boat ramp, and as soon as he hit the end of the boat ramp, just went straight down.
You didn't see him get out?
No, I waited 2 or 3 minutes before to see if he got out. But just kept going, no struggle.
With police divers more than 2 hours away, a crew member from the Westpac rescue helicopter dived repeatedly over the scene using a snorkel. The first attempts to locate the vehicle in zero visibility were unsuccessful. Eventually the car was found, nose down more than 9 metres underwater. It was impossible to confirm if anyone was in the vehicle until it was towed to the bank. Police say the victim was an elderly retired farmer well known in the district. They aren't releasing his name until they contact relatives overseas. It's not known what caused the car to go down the boat ramp. Rescue crews are satisfied that there were no passengers in the vehicle. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
This afternoon at Merewether Heights, a car left Scenic Drive and flipped through the air, coming to rest precariously closely to a steep drop. The young man driving wasn't hurt, but his female passenger received a bump on the head and was taken to hospital for observation. When rescue services arrived at the scene, they quickly attached a cable to the early model Tirana to secure it at the top of the embankment. Witnesses said the car skidded in gravel on a bend and swerved back onto the road, but then it careered into a low bank and was catapulted through the air. Its progress was only halted by a tangle of bushes, which provided a soft landing and an amazing escape from serious injury for the 2 occupants.
Last week, Shortland electricity boss Ivor Peebles hinted electricity prices would fall after the signing of a special performance contract with Energy Minister Pickard.
Well, I see it as happening as giving a streamlined service. As Minister Pickard has said, a negotiating of cheaper electricity prices, cheaper coal, which would mean in turn that you'd be generating cheaper power.
Only 6 days later at a council meeting, prices have gone up. 6.1% for domestic users and 3% for commercial clients. For the average householder, that means a rise of something like $45 a year. The hike could have been bigger, but the meeting voted 9 members to 5 to redirect $1.5 million of next year's predicted profit to cut the increase from 6.5 to 6.1%. Peter Ryan for NBN News. Speaking at a medical conference with visiting academics from throughout Australia, Dr. Kinlay highlighted an issue close to people's hearts in the Hunter. There are 500 heart attacks in this area every year, one of the highest rates in the country, and Dr. Kinlay says we are attacking the problem the wrong way.
I think we're relying too much on drugs to solve some of our problems. I mean, really, a lot of these problems could be reduced by just some very simple changes.
Those simple changes would involve more campaigns like this. The Life Be In It advertisements encouraging a healthy lifestyle. In a 5-year study in the Hunter, Dr. Kinlay found a $2.5 million advertisement campaign was just as effective as a $46 million drug program in reducing heart attacks.
Meanwhile, in Newcastle, the end of the financial year heralds not only the moment of truth for hundreds of thousands of wage earners, but also the city's new tax office. With its boundaries now stretching to Port Macquarie and Grafton, the office will this year process more than 370,000 salary and wage forms and 230,000 investment returns. However, Newcastle Deputy Tax Commissioner Bill Mulherron believes the office has ironed out its teething problems in plenty of time.
It'll really help. We're moved into one building from 3, so that'll make us more efficient, and we're closer to each other in terms of processing.
The Form S returns and guides are available now at the tax office. The Form AB has been posted out to people who used it last year. Mr Mulherron says both are much easier to fill in.
The form this year is only 4 pages, less questions, should be easier to fill out, but use the guide because it'll help you through completing the form properly. Do the form properly, lodge it early and get an early refund would be my message, Tracy.
At the tax office today all was relatively quiet, but from now through to late October, Mr Mulherron says it will be flat chat, with extra staff assigned especially to the task of assisting puzzled wage earners.
But on the front pages, all we're after is basically your name, your current address, and particulars of whether you're married or not, the date of your last return, that'll help us identify you in case you have lodged returns earlier.
We've got 95 people upstairs ready and waiting, trained to receive returns. There's very few there at the moment. You know, the early ones in should be looking around 2 to 3 weeks of getting their refund back.
That's fine.
Happy birthday to Kate Midgley was born 103 years ago tomorrow, but a busy social schedule planned for her birthday saw Mrs Midgley celebrating with her friends at St Joseph's today. Mrs Midgley was born in Yorkshire, England in 1886. She went to work in the local mill when she was 11. In 1927, Mrs Midgley, her husband and 3 children moved to Australia and started a cake decorating business in New Lambton. Longevity is not unusual in Mrs Midgley's family. Her 2 sisters lived till 89 and 97 and her brother till 85. Mrs Midgley has 1 living daughter, 2 grandchildren, 11 great-grandchildren and 6 great-great-grandchildren. The reason she says she's lived so long, she's never done anyone any harm.
And if you had a good
Toronto detectives began their swoop before dawn yesterday.
We commenced an operation from 5:30 yesterday morning where 31 search warrants were executed throughout the Lake Macquarie, Maitland and Cessnock areas, which resulted in 10 arrests and the recovery of 18 video recorders and television sets, and we hope to recover a lot more.
These are just a few of the goods found in the raids, but they're only a fraction of the 477 televisions and 980 videos stolen from the Tempest Electrical Services warehouse in Botany on April 23rd. Until recently, police had few clues about what had happened to the haul until a recent neighbourhood watch meeting provided a breakthrough.
We had received a lot of information from police, general duty and detectives, but some of the information actually came from a seminar we held this year, last month, from approximately 200 people attended in the Toronto area, resulting of neighbourhood watch people, and information came from those.
After raids on 31 homes, 10 men were arrested and charged with receiving stolen goods. 1 man allegedly had 90 stolen items in his possession. All have been bailed to appear in Wallsend and Cessnock courts in August. Police are anticipating more arrests and are appealing to the public for assistance.
And we are appealing to anybody in the Lake Macquarie, Cessnock, Maitland areas especially people that's been involved with the Araring Power Station employees. We believe a lot of the equipment has gone through there, and if they can assist us with any inquiries, and if they have any property of Tempest brands, such as videos or TVs, if they can contact us, please.
If you're in the market for a shopping centre, this may be the one for you. Opened by property giant Hookers last October, it's now being cashed in, as the company desperately seeks capital to pay off multi-million-dollar debts. Selling agent Bruce Keach says he expected the sale despite the financial difficulties.
It's a standard property developers function that they build the shopping centres to sell them. From the day they first bought the site, they intended to develop the centre and sell it.
Whatever the reason, buyers from Sydney and Melbourne have already shown interest. More than 90% of Newcastle's residential growth areas are within spending distance of the plaza, and the buyers are lining up. If 10,000 square metres of floor space is what you're after, including 43 shops and 600 car spaces, and if bank interest rates aren't a problem, well, this place could be yours for a cool $18 million.
The Cessnock public inquiry was to examine and report on the capacity of local government services in Cessnock to meet rapidly changing social and economic circumstances. At the time, the city had been the focus of much attention, in particular with ongoing problems with the condition of roads. Now, almost 3 months later, Commissioners Dan Kelly from the Local Government Department and Bill Henningham of the Local Government and Shires Association have compiled their report based on submissions made during the inquiry. Over 4 days, community members voiced their satisfaction or concern about council conduct and offered practical solutions to problems. Those making submissions included the Hunter Water Board, the NRMA and the Tourism Commission. The contents of the 50-page report remain under wraps until the Minister's visit on Thursday, when it will be made public and presented to Mayor Alderman Marie Callaghan and other Cessnock Council aldermen. A spokesman for the Local Government Minister says, however, the report should pinpoint areas where council will have to lift its game. A recommendation that council receive increased federal and state government funding for roads.
Ms Fraser met the Boardriders to hear about local beach pollution. Former world champion Boardrider Mark Richards was on hand to express his disgust at the recent spate of surgical items washed up and how the continual abuse of our waterways could lead to parents not allowing their children to swim or join surf clubs. In the last month, Leggy Point Boardriders have collected more than 1,000 syringes plus other medical refuse washed up on nearby beaches. An idea was put forward today to gain state government support through independent parliamentarians George Keegan, Ivan Walsh and Dawn Fraser to establish a Surfline Beach Report for local beaches. The service would test water samples from beaches each day and give an indication of what beaches would be pollution-free. Ms Fraser says councils and water boards should begin looking at a concept designed by New South Wales inventor Francis Sutton to deal with sewage.
And I think his submission that he's put in to revert it back into as raw sewage, secondary treatment going back in and getting clear water out to run power stations and then utilising that water and sludge being put back into the land as fertiliser.
However, Ms Fraser says until new systems are introduced, stopping pollution from finishing up on the beach starts at home.
We've got to look at mums and dads. If you've got any fat or you've been cooking, wrap it up in newspaper or put it back into your backyard and re-fertilise it, use as fertiliser. It can be done.
This September the 12th and 13th sees the running of the NBN Cameron Handicap and the Windfield Newcastle Gold Cup. And the Newcastle Jockey Club will distribute record prize money of $600,000, an increase of $128,000 on 1988. The Newcastle Gold Cup is the flagship of Newcastle racing and has proved to be a major guide to the Great Spring races. Horses such as Hyperno and Gurners Lane have gone from wins in the Cup to victories in the big one, the Melbourne Cup. New Secretary-Manager of the NJC, Terry Smith, is delighted with the increase in prize money.
The Cup will be $200,000, which is the best in New South Wales outside the metropolitan area. And we've also increased the Spring 3-year-old stakes to $75,000. It's a listed race, so it'll draw the top 3-year-olds as it has in the past. And all in all, the 2-day carnival should be a real ripper, I think.
To open the carnival, the NBN Cameron Handicap will be run, a race that has a tremendous tradition and one that has attracted an increase of $25,000, taking the overall prize money of this race alone to $100,000.
Normally a good social event of the year, but the racing on that day is just equal to Cup Day. We've increased the prize money on that day by about another $25,000 for the minor races to bring the standard of those races up. So all in all, the 2-day carnival will produce good horses from Sydney and the country, and we're looking forward to a real top carnival.
Today, Wyong Council's Marketing and Development Officer, Steve Dumpleton, showed the Minister plans for the 78-hectare Tuggerah Business Park. It will provide around 70 lots for a range of businesses, industry, banks and food outlets. Mr Peacock described the plans as impressive.
Yes, I think although this area could be in a sense regarded as part of metropolitan Sydney in a way, it yet is the start of a move to relocate a lot of industry out of the congested areas of the city, and it's the way that I would like to see happen for the whole of the state.
This is just one of the Shire's new industrial estates that aim to attract new businesses and supply 70,000 jobs in the next 10 years. Others include Berkeley Vale Industrial Estate, which is one of 10 in various stages of development. And the Minister said the days of commuting for many Central Coast people could be numbered.
And it has a great advantage for this region in that you've got a tremendous number of people who commute to Sydney to work, who will find work locally. That's wonderful for the area. It's a very beautiful part of the state, and obviously people would like to live here. And it is the start of a process.
That's fine, thanks.